that front brake is really good now. I cleaned out the calipers over the Christmas holidays because the brakes are getting really spongy. But more importantly, oh hello horses. As I was saying, the brakes are getting really spongy, but more importantly the brake point was changing. So it would, instead of taking 80% of the brake lever, it would take 60% of the brake lever to engage the brakes, which is not great when you got someone doing an emergency stop in front of you. So I was watching Del Boy's Garage over the Christmas holidays, and he redid his video of how to clean up the calipers, and I watched that video the first time and did it on the DRZ. It was a fairly easy thing, and I thought, well, you know what, it is that time of the year, I should do it on the old Triumph, and maybe I'll resolve this issue with the random brake point and sponginess. So I took the right hand caliper off, and sure enough, one of the pistons was just completely jammed in. One of the lead pistons was totally stuck, and the two trailing ones seemed okay, so I'd stuck them into position with me piston rewind tool, and I'd pumped out the other main piston and was squeezing that in manually to try and work the other one loose, and the other one was coming out gently, you know, bit by bit. And then all of a sudden the piston I was pushing in with my fingers suddenly just went slunk in. And sure enough, the other one popped out of the caliper and into my awaiting hands. Well, that was not ideal. But it's amazing the way you think the laws of physics might be temporarily suspended, because I just thought, oh, never mind, if I'm quick, if I pop it back in, it hasn't been out for very long, it hasn't touched the ground, hasn't got any grit on it, if I just pop it back in, no air will get in, it'll be fine. So I put it back in, and sure enough, when I slid it back into position, there was this long strangulated gurgling noise as the air forced its way back up the lines and into the master cylinder. So yeah, it was fortunate I had the brake bleeding kit on hand and some spare fluid. But you know what, it only took me 5 minutes to bleed the system through, and another 20 or so to put 3 reservoirs of brake fluid through, because the brake fluid needed cleaning anyway, if I'm honest. So that worked well, and then of course I ran out of daylight. So I did the other caliper the next day and took it for a run, and it was amazing. The brakes just totally pinpoint precision sharp, absolutely perfect, and predictable biting point. So that was obviously the problem, is simply down to cylinders getting jammed. One thing I did notice though was that not all of that grime I could get out, and I had my toothbrush and a Brillo pad, not a Brillo pad, you know, the green plastic dish scrubbing pads. I had one of them, and I had a chain cleaning thing that I use for the bicycle, which is basically a pipe cleaner with plastic brushes on it all the way around, and it's great. You can get it into the caliper, give it a good scrub, but some of this stuff just would not come out, even with hot soapy water and using the brake cleaning fluid on it. Not happened. Some of it I managed to clear off just using the thumbnail, and I got some pop off, but yeah, I have a suspicion that the only answer to this is a full caliper rebuild and clean, and I'll take the opportunity to do the seals as well and do that in the summer sometime, as it shouldn't be a major problem. They're decent calipers and they come off pretty easy. But I am so glad that it was just the pistons needing a bit of declagging, because my mate at work, Mr. Matt, had a bit of a problem on his Bandit where he had no brakes, and what happened was the front bearing had actually gone and it was causing the wheel to wobble. Now, not noticeably wobble, but you know, only a millimetre or so, and sufficient to push the cylinders in on the brakes. So when you hit the brakes first time, you'd get nothing. The brake lever would go straight to the bar, and you'd have to apply the brakes again, and then you get some brakes. And I was shit scared that that's what happened to this bike, and that the bearing was going in the front. And because I don't have a paddock stand for the front of the bike, I couldn't test it to see if the bearing was going. But it's good as gold now. Bearing's fine, just my imagination.